The New Orleans Saints have a new biggest rival. It's not the Atlanta Falcons. It is Kurt Benkert. Kurt Benkert is a Madden YouTube content creator who came out with this hot take on Twitter. The Saints might be the worst team in the NFL this year. Caused a firestorm. So now it is Kurt versus the New Orleans Saints. And who better to stand up for the Saints? Who better to be the voice of the voiceless than me, the face of the franchise, the people's champ? Not that one. That one. So in this video, we're going to respond, react like we do to Kurt's takes. We have a few of them up here. He's had a few different tweets and a video. We're going to break it down. So let's talk about the whole thing. Right here, this tweet kicked it off. The Saints might be the worst team in the NFL this year. I think this tweet alone is crazy. I think this tweet alone, what happened is Kurt got ahead of his skis a little bit. Kurt threw something out there, kind of went a little overboard, a little too far. And instead of saying, you know what, okay, guys, come on. In the middle of the road, they're just a mid-tier team. Kind of tripled down, doubled down, quadrupled down. So then we go here to the schedule. I think every team on this schedule is better than them. But they probably squeak out 4 to 5 wins, maybe 6. Now, 6 obviously is not the worst team in the league. 5 isn't the worst team in the league. 4, you're in the conversation. But the part of this is crazy is that every team on the schedule being better than the Saints when the Carolina Panthers exist. So don't take my word for it. Let's take DraftKings' word for it. This is just one sportsbook, but you can go to any of them. If we search for the Saints, let's go ahead and see what the odds are in their games. So right off the bat, they are favored against Carolina by a wide margin. So they're better than Carolina, according to the Vegas odds makers. Cowboys, we are dogs against the Cowboys. Dogs against the Eagles at home. We are dogs on the road to the Falcons. Chiefs, obviously. Then we're favored against the Bucks. Okay. Doesn't necessarily mean we're considered better than the Bucks because we are at home. It's only -1.5, but still, you see the point here. Then we are absolutely favored against the Broncos. Favored enough to where we're considered the better team. The Chargers were dogs on the road. Panthers, we are favored on the road. Again, we are markedly better than the Panthers if we're favored on the road. We are a slight dog at home to the Falcons, but still, if you're a dog at home to a team, you are considered worse than that team. The Browns were +2. Rams +1.5. We're favored on the road against the Giants, another team that we are better than on our schedule. Commanders, same thing, big favorites on the road against the Commanders. We're dogs against the Packers. And then we are favored at home against the Raiders, better than them. And we are dogs on the road against the Bucks. So if we look at that and you just win those games, just win the games you're favored. All right. You got 1 against the Panthers. Then we have 1 against the Bucks, 1 against the Broncos, another 1 against the Panthers, 1 against the Giants, 1 against the Cowboys, the Raiders, and that's it. So that's 7. Was that 7 wins right there? So we're favored in 7 games. So to be the worst team in the NFL when you're favored by 7 games is crazy. We're not even the worst team in our division, much less the worst team in the NFL. Forgetting that we won 9 games last year in what I would consider a disaster season. All right, last year was a disaster season. Offensive line was horrible. Offensive play calling was worse in the league. All of that was true. We had Alvin Kamara started the season on a suspension. Marshawn Lattimore got hurt. All that took place last year. No pass rush at all. And we still found a way to win 9 games because we have a weak schedule and a weak division. We have a weak schedule and a weak division this year. And we got better in certain spots that we were really bad at last year, like pass rush. We went and got Chase Young. He's been really, really good so far for us. Other areas that we've improved, our offensive play calling, our offensive staff. We fired everybody, including Barnum and Bailey's favorite clown, Pete Carmichael. We now have Clint Kubiak, Andrew Janocko, and an entire new staff, so we'll say that's an upgrade as well. Talise Fuaga comes in to upgrade the offensive line. So even the spots we were bad in last year in a 9-win season, a winning season, a season where we tied for the division, to go from that, where you seemingly get better in the offseason, to worst team in the NFL, bit of a reach. So let's go now to the video. So this video right here really kind of did things. This was from Pocket Presence. Kurt Benkert did not hold back on Saints fans.
I also think Saints fans, there's some really nice Saints fans out there. There are. And I like the ones that are nice. They are delusional for the most part. I don't know if it's some New Orleans magic going on. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're sipping the juice. But from an outsider's perspective, Saints fans seem to be the only ones that believe their team is a Super Bowl team.
There are fans for every single team who think every single year their team's going to the Super Bowl. No doubt about that. I mean, if you ask, I'm sure there's a small percent of Patriots fans who think Drake May is the next Tom Brady and this is the year. Every team has that. For the most part, the majority of Saints fans do not believe this is a Super Bowl team. The majority of Saints fans are down on this team. The majority of Saints fans want to see Dennis Allen gone. They want to see Derek Carr gone. They long for the days of the Saints being the prolific offense and division winner and 13, 12 game winner that we see season in, season out. That is a far cry, though, again, from being the worst team in the NFL. Okay, so now we've kind of shifted things. So we've shifted it a few times now. Let's catch you back up. Worst team in the NFL. Then every team on their schedule is better than them, but they'll find a way to get 4, 5, or 6 wins. And now Kurt is saying that Saints fans are delusional because we believe we are a Super Bowl team, which I would refute.
Year in and year out. As if Sean Payton and Drew Brees are 10 years younger, still doing the damn thing. You can't squint hard enough and watch Derek Carr play football and think that he's Drew Brees.
Yeah, I mean, no one is sitting here saying that Derek Carr is Drew Brees. People kind of agree on what Derek Carr is. I think everyone agrees that Derek Carr is a mid-tier quarterback. He's being paid mid-tier quarterback money. I think at this time he's the 17th highest paid quarterback in the NFL. On a team-friendly deal, he's a bridge to whatever the next chapter for the Saints are. Carr has his fans. I mean, a lot of them are coming from Las Vegas / Oakland, and they believe in Derek Carr, and they believe he can be a really good quarterback. Again, there's a lot of mid-tier quarterbacks who have that kind of support. A lot of people think Kirk Cousins can be an elite quarterback. A lot of people think Geno Smith can be an elite quarterback. I would categorize Derek Carr as a middle-tier quarterback, and I would categorize the Saints as a middle-tier team. Luckily for the Saints, being middle-tier can win you the division because their division is full of middle-tier teams. We saw that last year. The division is so middle-tier that the Saints, in a horrible season, almost backed their way into the division. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the division, right? So 9 wins, 10 wins can get you the NFC South, which can get you a playoff game, which can get you a playoff victory, as the Buccaneers found out last year.
And that's okay. Not everybody's going to be that guy, but we need to stop pretending that guys are those guys because he's just not. He's in, I don't know, year 10, 11, 12. I don't even know what it is. He's still making mistakes that I'm like kind of looking at when I watch these games and I'm like, dang, man, like you have all the arm talent, you have this and that, but it just has not ever come together. And I don't know if it's him. I don't know if it's the team. I don't know if it's the receivers. I don't know, but I just don't ever believe it's going to come together for the Saints in this way, shape, and form that they exist today. And
come together for the Saints as far as a Super Bowl, I would agree. I don't think Derek Carr is going to lead us to a Super Bowl. I don't think the Saints have Super Bowl aspirations. But can the Saints win the NFC South with Derek Carr? Yes. Why do I say that? Because they almost did last year. They were a Derek Carr shoulder injury in Green Bay away from winning the NFC South last year. It's obvious what the Saints are trying to do. It's obvious what the Saints have done for 20 years now. It's be consistent. Don't ever tank. Don't ever be too bad. Stay around that 7 to 10 wins. And then certain years when everything lines up, you can win 12 games, 13 games. I mean, if you are new to the channel, I will say this, I say it all the time, but the Saints haven't won less than 7 games since before Sean Payton was here. The Saints are not a franchise that lose. They're not a franchise that lose at that level. They're not a franchise like the Giants or the Patriots even, or that just absolutely can tank and absolutely can bottom out. Certain franchises and teams do that. You know, the Lions bottomed out for 40 years, right? So the Saints don't. The Saints don't do that. They keep a core group of players. They keep a good defense with Dennis Allen. They keep talented playmakers, and they hope that they can kind of glue things together enough to be relatively competitive, like you saw last year and like you'll see this year.
And then you pull up their schedule, and look, I only found 1 win on this entire schedule. And I know that I'm super, super heavily swayed in that direction. You'll probably find 3 more in that. I think you'll end up winning 4 games this year.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're saying that we're going to do something that we haven't done before Sean Payton. But it's also just the idea of you're now saying that the team that was last year is pretty much the same. Didn't get a new quarterback, didn't get anything new as far as like big-time roster turnover. The new pieces we did get are improvements. The new pieces that we did get are positive, like Chase Young, like Kool-Aid McKinstry, like Talise Fuaga, like Willie Gay. We have a great defense. No doubt about that. We'll just call it top 12 defense. I think everyone can agree. We have a top 12 defense in the NFL. We have a very easy schedule, a very easy division. And how that can turn into I see one win, I don't understand. If you said that the Saints are mid, as the youth say, if you would say the Saints are average, if you would say even the Saints are below average, if you say I think the Saints will win 7 games, maybe even 6, but 7 games. If you started that as the argument, if that was it, like they're a below average team, they're not going anywhere fast, they're a 7-win team, it's a 7-10 win team, I'd say, okay, I'll listen to that. I will listen that the offensive line is bad. I will listen to all that Derek Carr is not going to work out. I would listen to Clint Kubiak's in over his head. Okay, whatever. But to go from the schedule we looked at, to go from the team that we saw last year with improved pieces, to go from that to 1 win, to go from that to almost a winless season. I'm assuming the 1 win would be Carolina at home to start the season. He didn't say what that 1 win would be, but I'm assuming that's what it would be. So you're talking about winning week 1 and then losing every game for the rest of the season. Even some games when you're favored by 3, 4, 5 points. Just losing every game. Even after we saw last year this team dog walk the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the end of the season. Dog walk the Atlanta Falcons at the end of the year. Dog walk the New York Giants. Teams we play again this year. So it's hard to get from what we saw with DraftKings and the odds, the schedule, the team we saw last year, the offseason the Saints have had, to bundle all that up and somehow get to 1 win.
But I look at each game and I think you should probably lose all of these except for one of them. I don't see any way, shape, or form that they think they're going to win 9 games. I couldn't peel my eyes back wide enough to find 9 wins on this schedule.
Well, Kurt, the answer to that is we win the games we're favored in, the games that we looked at. And then some of the coin flip games where we're a 1-point underdog or a 1.5-point underdog or a 2-point underdog at home, those games are coin flip games. And those games you can absolutely win. If you're a 2-point or 1-point dog at home, that's a pretty even-ish matchup, and you can absolutely win that game. So you win the games you're supposed to that we looked at. You upset a team here or there. You win a coin flip game here and there. That's how you get to 9 wins. You do it a couple times, that's how you get to 10 wins. And much like last year, that's how you win the division. If we were in the AFC West, I would say we're not going to win the division. We can't make the playoffs because we're not going to win 12 games, 13 games, which is what you need in that division to compete with the Kansas City Chiefs. That's not the case here. The NFC South is weak. You don't have to win 11 games. You don't have to win 12 games. You don't have to win 13 games. You can win 9 games and win this division. James, that sounds crazy. Roll it back to last year. Okay. So can the Saints win 9 games? Can they win 10 games? Sure, they can, because they almost did it a calendar year ago, for sure. Am I going to sit here and say that they are for sure a 10-win team? No. I think there's somewhere in the ballpark of 8 wins, 9 wins, or 10 wins. And that's what everything shows. That's what the odds show. That's what the regular season win total is 7.5. So obviously right in that ballpark. But for them to miss on a 7.5 win total team that would drop to 1 win would be startling. And
they online believe they're going to win 12 games. And I'm like, there's just such a large discrepancy between reality, my reality, and Saints fans' reality that I actually think the Saints probably win 5 or 6 games this year.
I mean, damn, we went from one. Jesus, what just happened? How long is this video? 1:25 seconds? We went from what did he say?
He's going to be that guy, but we need to stop. I don't know, year 10, 11, 12. I don't even know. Kind of looking at when I watch this, has not ever Saints in this way, shape, and win on this entire schedule. Yeah. Their schedule, and look, I only found 1 win on this entire schedule.
And I know that I found 1 win at the 57-second mark to less than 30 seconds later.
I think the Saints probably win 5 or 6 games this year. I would not.
Damn, if he kept talking, I'll give him this. If this video would have been 2 more minutes long, the Saints might have won the Super Bowl. If Kurt would have just kept rambling, he might have went from Saints win 1 game to Saints win 5 games to Saints win 14 games. Does he stream? If he's live on stream and he just kind of goes on one of these diatribes about the Saints, they may end up being undefeated.
I'd be shocked in the slightest if they suck ass and lose almost all their games. I also think Saints fans.
Okay, so we have a prediction of 1 win what was it, 1 win, 6 wins, and then suck ass and lose all of their games. All right, interesting. So then Kurt releases this. Just a reminder, the Panthers went 2-15 last year with a top 5 defense. You need your offense to score points in this league to win games. The top 5 defense won't save you from bad offense. Do this with this information what you will, assuming again, this is a lot of Saints fans explaining or saying that Saints can't be the worst team in the NFL. They have a good defense. Absolutely, a top 12 defense. I would argue closer to a top 5 defense, but we can meet in the middle, say a top 10 defense. Now, this right here, I'm okay with hot takes. Everyone knows that. I'm okay with saying the Saints will be bad. I'm all right with that. But this right here is just patently false. And it's obvious where he messed up. I say all the time, you have to be careful with these shallow stats. You have to be really careful with points per game, yards per game, things like that, unless you have the context. Because without the context, if you just look at yards per game or passing yards per game or one shallow stat, you can kind of get it messed up. Now, I thought in my head, well, it's obvious what Kurt is talking about here. I'm guessing the Panthers probably didn't give up very many passing yards because the Panthers were the worst team in the NFL. Why the hell would teams be passing on them? This is an anomaly that happens quite a bit, where you'll see really bad teams chart really highly when it comes to passing yards per game. Let's say they're down 28-0, which they are a lot because they're the worst team in the NFL. They're down 28-0. The team they're playing isn't going to be throwing the ball. They're going to be running out the clock. They're not going to be showing a lot of the playbook. They're not going to be taking chances. And when that happens, it can falsely inflate your defensive numbers. What bad teams also do is turn the ball over. What bad teams also do is have bad field position. That also eats up the amount of yards you're giving up, right? So predictably, if you go to passing yards per game given up defensively, the Panthers do rate highly. They rate third, okay? Now, if you go to points given up per game, the Panthers all of a sudden now are 29th. They're 29th, okay? You can see some other pretty bad teams down there in points allowed per game. Then if you go to turnovers, how many turnovers that they're forcing, all right, takeaways. Saints are third, no big deal. The Panthers are dead last. So the Panthers are dead last in takeaways. They are 29th in points allowed per game, but because their passing yards against is highly, all of a sudden they have a top 5 defense. Now, if you don't believe me, again, let's go to DVOA. DVOA is a trusted analytical group that weights everything we're talking about. They weight the expected average. There's a definition for DVOA down here. The defense adjusted value over average for total defense as well as rushing and passing. DVOA measures a team's efficiency by comparing success on every single play to a league average based on situation and opponent. There you go. So that is exactly what we're looking at. It weights everything we're talking about. So it takes the context that you might not have by yards per game against. It takes that context and weights it in for you. All right. Gives you a truer look at how teams are playing, both offensively and defensively. But obviously we're looking at defense on this one. So let's go to the ranking. So I have it ranked at the end of the season last year. The Ravens were number 1, the Browns were number 2, the Jets were number 3, the 49ers number 4, Dallas number 5. The Saints are 15, which is about right because the Saints were pretty good defensively in every metric, but rushing crushed them. They were horrible against the run last year, which is why we had to bolster the defensive line. They were really bad against the rush, and they were really bad sacking the quarterback. But all the other metrics were pretty decent. Points per game against, they were, 10th? Somewhere in there. So not bad, right? So it's weighted. So it sounds about right for the Saints. High takeaways, good points against, but bad in some other metrics like sacks and rushing yards against. The Panthers are 25th. So I think this proves that the Panthers certainly are not a top 5 defense. When you are 25th in DVOA, when you are dead last in takeaways, and when you are the worst, or 29th in points per game against. So that is patently false there from Kurt. And again, this didn't have to happen. You know, this kind of stuff is where you're just digging for something instead of backtracking and saying, you know what, all right, listen. Saints aren't the worst team in the NFL. The Saints are probably just mediocre. They're probably just below average. They're probably a 7-win team, and that's just it. But quadrupling down on this idea that the Saints are way worse than they actually are. And again, like for me, a guy who covers the Saints every single day, a guy who is incredibly close to this situation, I do not think the Saints are going to compete for the NFC. I do not think they have the roster to do that. They certainly aren't going to compete for a Super Bowl. Can they win the division? Yes, 100%. And I think the last season proved that. If they were what they were last year and competed for the division, I believe they got better. It's hard to imagine anyone. It's hard to imagine anyone could look at the offseason the Saints had and not agree that this team got better. Even if you think Derek Carr is bad, even just the fact that Carr has an extra year with his teammates, an extra year in New Orleans, just the fact that the team is healthy, just the fact that Alvin Kamara isn't missing the first couple of games due to suspension, just the fact that Pete Carmichael got on a bus and got shipped out of New Orleans, just all of that alone makes the team better. And we're not even talking about the additions of Willie Gay, Chase Young, Talise Fuaga, Kool-Aid McKinstry. Not even talking about that. Right? So the Saints are middle-of-the-road team. They're very similar to the Buccaneers last year, where middle-of-the-road team, decent roster, the right things happen. They can win a weak division with 9 wins, 10 wins, host a playoff game, and call it a season. And that's what we're shooting for here in New Orleans. We're not shooting for a Super Bowl or an NFC championship or anything like that. So tough stuff here from Kurt. But ladies and gentlemen, in this situation, the only thing Kurt has been is wrong. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. Get on down in the comments below. Let me know exactly what you thought about this, what you thought about any of the tweets, any of the videos, any of the statistics that we showed. Thank you very, very, very much. And I will see you in the next video.
You come at the king, you best not miss.